So, guys, this episode, it's gonna be a little bit informal, kind of Zoom meeting with Kyle over here. Um, Kyle is the current strength and conditioning coach in Southern Miss for the soccer team. So I'm really excited to hear his thoughts, him walking through us like how he developed athletes and how he also his ideology of developing a goalkeeper as well. Kyle, he did his undergrad in Southern Illinois, where he also did an internship there. He has his national strength conditioning certificate as well. So I'm really excited about that. And with that being said, Kyle, if you want to introduce yourself, say something about you, that way people can get to know you a little bit more.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best. I would say thank you for having me, by the way. Just want to say that first things first.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm the
as
one excited here. You shouldn't be the one. Thank you for
all
your.
right. Yeah, thank you. I would say my name is Kyle DeGudis. I'm the current strength and conditioning coach here at Southern Miss for women's soccer. As you said, I did my undergrad at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. I did an internship there for about a year and a half, where I worked with the majority of sports we had on campus. Worked with football, both men's and women's basketball. Worked with soccer, track and field, men's and women's golf, baseball, softball, a little bit of swim and dive, and worked with volleyball as well. So I have kind of a good array of sports that I was working with. So I try not to stay set in like one sport that I was truly working with. I try to get as many different experiences as I could in that. And I think over the year and a half I had there, I learned a lot, not just about like programming. The science honestly comes very, very easy to me, but working with so many different teams
Yeah.
is really going to be beneficial. I would say to most young strength coaches as it was to me. Just kind of learning like how to go about your job, learning how different teams operate, learning how to be potentially coaching in different situations, different scenarios. So that was a really, really great experience for me. Still in great contact with those people there, even people who have moved on from Southern Illinois. I still talk to them pretty regularly, but that experience really, really shaped me in that time, that year and a half, because you're hearing me talk a lot already in this episode. Those first like 2 or 3 weeks I was there, I was a fly on the wall. You couldn't hear me speak. You couldn't even hear my voice if I was talking.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I will never imagine that from.
Oh no, now you have like a good 2 to 3 minute segment of me talking. I don't think I said 2 to 3 sentences in that time.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I know I like something that you mentioned about like how working with different teams to give you like different perspective. I'm a big believer in that. Like for example, right now with my PhD, I'm doing the PhD in communication. And even
Hmm.
though it's not like really straight associated with soccer, there is a lot of skills and a lot of things that you can translate. So I'm assuming like of course with the strength conditioning, if you're working with golf, and I know your methodology because I get to work with you, but and you're gonna be talking about it a little bit more. But if you get to work with golf, then you're like, okay, how can we implement this stuff that we do in golf in soccer? Is it gonna be worth it and stuff like that? So I'm really curious to hear those things. Before just we start with the technical things and everything, I want to emphasize his shirt because I love the shirt. Kind of thin, kind of fat. If you see this guy is a muscle builder here. Like he's lean. He's like,
You're
how tall are you? 6 foot what?
6'2". I'm 6'2".
Yeah, 6'2", lean, jacked, man, and then he just wears a shirt that said that he's fat. So wow.
Hey, you're making me blush, man. You got to stop doing this. I know you're just trying to hype me up for the pod, but listen, you gotta
No.
stop flattering me so much. I need you to humble me.
Okay, I will. Don't worry. You know, I will.
All right, thank you. Please do.
Yeah. All right. So talking about, so you came to Southern Miss. You're doing your master's right now. The master's is in
It is in coaching and sport performance right now.
coaching and performance. And for everybody that want to be a strength and conditioning coach, of course, like we said, you have the certificate. How
Mhm.
did that process go? Like, how does that work? How do you think the academic part combined?
Yep. So that's a great question. The big thing that is going to determine whether or not you're able to kind of land in the position that I'm in is you have to get certified. Very very, and I mean very rarely, can you get a job like this and not be certified. It is very like it's almost out of the norm to not be certified for this job. So the certification process is number one, you have to get in contact with the National Strength and Conditioning Association.
Hmm.
You have to pay a fee in order to take the test. You have to sign up for a time and a date to take that test. And then the big thing is that you want to have the Essentials of Strength and Conditioning fourth edition book
Hmm.
to kind of test out of because they won't test like certain sentences out of the book, but what they're going to do is test, okay, we gave you the information. How are you going to put that information to use on the test? Can you take what we gave you and now are you able to apply it?
Yeah.
That process kind of looks different for different people. I know for me, I'm a neurotic mess when it comes to tests. So I took a long time studying for that test. I took
Hmm.
probably about 6 months. Although I will say most people could probably get away with 3 to 4 months of hard studying.
Yeah.
Um, I will say that by the time I got done with my test, I think in total I missed about how many questions are there on that test? I think there's 195 questions. I
Wow.
think I missed 15 on the entire test.
Wow, that's really good though.
Yeah, but you don't need to get that high on the test. But it is good to know that, oh, okay, I had a lot of wiggle room to kind of mess some stuff up.
Yeah.
But that test is really, they're gonna make sure that you took the information that was in that textbook. Okay, can we give you something? And can you find the most correct answer to that question given the options?
Yeah. Well, I love that you also brought that up because I mean, of course, I get to work with you. I know you. Something that I always tell people, like how passionate you are about the things that you do, and like the fact that you go and study really hard for this exam and just spend really a lot of time in order to achieve this. It just shows like how passionate you are regarding this. So, all right, taking care of that introduction, that first part, we can dwell a little bit more on okay, strength and conditioning. So how let's talk about what are your thoughts on strength and conditioning on developing an athlete, and then from that we can start like going into okay, how do we develop a goalkeeper, because at the end like we want to just focus a little bit more on the goalkeeper aspect, but let's talk about the athlete in general. What are your
For
thoughts?
sure. So I'll say for developing most athletes, kind of going back to something I've been thinking about a lot, and I've reflected on this last year after of being in this job.
Hmm.
Um, the big things that we focus on in strength and conditioning for my programming is kind of going back to that foundational philosophy of simple things done with high effort and high intent produce the best results. You don't need to have a whole bunch of fancy stuff to where all the fancy stuff on Instagram, those things are cool to look at, but more often than not, the reason that certain things keep popping back up in certain strength and conditioning programs over 30, 40, 50 plus years is because those things work. Those things have worked since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
And trying to run away from it and trying to chase novelty as opposed to consistency is really what is going to separate a great athlete from a good athlete. A great athlete is going to try really, really, really hard with the simple stuff, as opposed to a good athlete who is going to constantly try and chase novelty.
Hmm.
Me personally, I feel as though my programming is a good mixture of simplicity and scientific foundation. There is a good blend of the two. You can't make it so complex that they don't understand what we're trying to do, but you don't want to make it so easy that we're not getting any adaptation. You need to have a perfect blend of the two things, simplicity and scientific foundation. If you mix those two together, and a good harmony, emphasizing certain things at different times, you will produce the best results long term. We're not looking for a short term fix for these athletes. Most of the time, when you come in as, let's say, I'm a freshman athlete,
Yeah.
more often than not, at the collegiate level, you're playing against grown athletes. Someone who's potentially been in the strength and conditioning program for 4, maybe even 6, maybe even 7 years. Those people have been doing the same kind of things over and over and over again. So seeing how far along those people are doing the same kind of things makes us wonder, okay, well, if I just try and give them a bunch of novelty and a bunch of things that look good as opposed to things that work and are progressible and are difficult, but also achievable, which one am I going to try and chase more? I would rather chase the low hanging fruit,
Yeah.
which is lifting heavy, throwing stuff, jumping, sprinting, and doing a lot of core. Doing all of those things is going to produce a much better athlete than trying to chase what looks good. Because
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I was taught this by Todd Makovica, who's our head of strength and conditioning here at Southern Miss. He put this in a perfect way. I wish I could shout him out, and I'm gonna do it right now. And I don't know if you could tag him somewhere in this video. That's fine. Think about a 5-star restaurant.
Uh-huh.
When they bring out a dish, think about how many ingredients are in that dish. There's not very many, are there?
Hmm.
But all of those ingredients in that dish are put together in such a perfect way that it creates a 5-star dish.
Yeah.
So doing that with your athletes is only going to guarantee that we get, quote unquote, a 5-star training program.
Yeah.
It's very simple things done in the perfect ways, in the perfect amounts, at the perfect times that's going to produce the best results.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny that you mentioned that because like I know there is a saying, well, two things that I heard once about like, oh, cliche thing is cliche because of a reason. And I think, like you said, like this exercise, all this compound exercise, because I know you are into compound exercise like bench press and stuff like that, are, I mean, they are still doable because people just see the good results about it.
Mhm.
That's great. And like you said, I think also like getting down to the right technique and really focusing on simplicity, like you said, is better in the run, besides just changing or trying to do new things that you really don't control or master.
For sure. And I will say most of the time with our athletes that we have here for soccer, and you can ask them, they're probably going to get very, very I wouldn't say bored of the exercises, but they're going to see a lot of the same things pop up consistently, or maybe mild variations of them. Well, it's because those things have been working. We've been getting a lot of good results
And
with
people
them.
people tend to just overthink the fact of like, oh, the gym and we need to have this perfect routine and this perfect scenario. When in reality, like I think the older that you get, and it's kind of the similar thing with goalkeeping. Like people come to with these activities, these drills of like doing all these 300% things, but I mean at the end, like you really need to control those foundation and those basics and
Mhm.
actually like be really good at that and actually
Mhm.
being able to translate it to what actually works besides just trying to jump around, trying different things and all these right weird things, you know.
No, I'm in full agreement with that. I think, like I said, we chase novelty because consistency is boring.
Exactly.
Consistency
That,
can
that,
be
that,
very,
that was
very boring.
that was the other thing that I was gonna say. Like, I mean, that's it. Excellent is boring. It's like, yeah, consistency is boring, but it is what it takes you to excellent, I believe. So like eating healthy, waking up early, going to the gym, doing all your routine. That's boring. Like out of like you see your life from out of the picture is really boring. But
Yeah.
that's what like great athletes do. Okay, with that being said, so of course, like you said, you focus on those exercises. So how will you develop like a program for a goalkeeper? So let's say I'm a goalkeeper, just starting. Let's put two scenarios, okay? First of all, I'm just starting. I'm new. This is for the youth. What do you think I should start being doing?
One of the things that we would want to emphasize in terms of a strength and conditioning program is movement. Movement, movement, movement is we're not necessarily worried about the load that we're giving you so much as it is, hey, we're going to make sure that everything is moving fantastically. We need to make sure that everything is moving correctly, nothing is broken. We need to make sure that we talk about competent lifters and corrosive lifters. Competent lifters are people who maybe don't have it exactly perfect, but it looks really, really good. That's going to be a huge thing as opposed to a corrosive lifter where their technique is actually hurting them. So
Yeah.
establishing that with a youth goalkeeper is going to be like imperative. You need to make sure that they're moving correctly before you start loading them really, really heavily. Obviously, adding some amount of load is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but constantly feeling the need to chase load is only going to hurt you.
Yeah.
If especially if they're not doing it correctly.
I always say
So
that age, what age will you consider being like, okay, you really just need to focus on the technique on taking this down? Like what?
I would it really depends. It depends on when they get into it, but I would say most youth athletes probably anywhere between 9 to 12 in
Mhm.
that range are going to be, hey, we're going to keep it very, very simple,
Mhm.
but we are going to make sure that everything in that time frame is getting you ready for more advanced, maybe not advanced techniques, but maybe more advanced programming,
Yeah.
progressive load. But also one of the big things that I think gets lost is something we call relative strength. Is how good are you at moving your own body weight?
Mhm.
How good are you at moving through space? Like how good are you at push-ups? How good are you at squatting? How good are you at pull-ups? How good are you at doing all these exercises that you can kind of use your body weight for? If you can get really, really good at doing that at a young age, moving to more advanced programming is actually going to be shortened. We can actually move further along at a faster rate, as opposed to someone who isn't very good at that right away. We might need to take a little bit more time, but again, it's not a quick fix. It is a slow, gradual process. They're still developing. We have a lot of time to develop them. We don't need to rush that process in order to feel some sort of instant gratification.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to be very boring. Consistency is not going to be very fun,
Mhm.
but it is going to produce a better long-term results.
Yeah. And I know before there was this huge myth about like, okay, youth shouldn't be doing weight room or stuff like that because they're not gonna grow. I don't know how much of a true is that.
It's actually proven to not be true. If
Yeah.
anything, it's actually going to help their growth by being in the weight room. Obviously, having them do just very simple but progressible exercises is going to benefit them more than we've called it early specialization,
Yeah.
meaning that you're solely focusing on one thing. So I've actually seen, not in personal experience, but definitely seen around where very young athletes are emphasized in, let's say, the weight room, like Olympic weightlifting. They're doing certain types of training to try and progress for a certain sport.
Yeah.
If anything, just keeping it very general, keeping it very easily accessible, very easily progressible, is going to benefit them no matter the sport they're playing. But for goalkeepers especially, like we have a long time to develop them. We have so long, especially if they're like not even hitting high school.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want them to start developing really, really well once they get into high school, but we don't need to rush that process. I
Yeah.
mean, even in college, we have 4 years. We have 4 to maybe 6 years of development time that we can use. Why do we not feel like we can do that at the youth age?
Yeah. And I think, like you said, I think at the youth, a really important part is them like getting familiar to their body because their body is switching every single time. Like
Hmm.
they're doing all this. And I think like those calisthenic moves or like the time that they are spending, let's say at the gym or stuff like that, they can like be using in the sports. And like you said, being able to control your body might be like the most crucial thing to during these early stages, from my understanding as well.
For sure.
So
I think that's one of the most important aspects, and I think that gets lost in this goal of trying to produce immediate results. Is sometimes we don't. I'm going to use this analogy. Would you rather have a steak that's kind of slow cooked, or would you rather have it at a super high heat and cooked immediately?
give me a slow cook, bro. That I cut
Well,
it
give me
and
a.
it's like
Oh,
it's
come
like
on, man, come on, come
give me
on.
another one.
But again, it's the same thing with athletes. It's I would rather have it slow burned, slow cooked. It's
Yeah,
gonna take time. It might not progress at the rate that is the fanciest or the most, you're not going to be able to put it on Instagram that like, oh, we have this 10-year-old who's front squatting 200 pounds. Like, you're probably not going to find that. I'm just
yeah,
going to be honest with you. You're probably not going to find that. But I'd rather have a 10-year-old who's goblet squatting 45 pounds and they're doing it perfectly for 10 reps and they feel really good after. And
yeah.
then they progress at, let's say 11 years old and they're front squatting with a bar and they have 75 pounds. That to me is a big win. That's a huge win
Yeah.
because that means that number one, they've gotten to the point where I feel comfortable enough to progress them that much, but also they're still moving well enough to where I can do that. And I'm not going to be worried about stunting their progression long term.
100%. And also they have built the habit as well of like working out and stuff like that. So I think that's great. Okay, so let's talk now. Okay, we went through a youth again. If you're a parent watching this or whatever, like let's don't think, oh, my kid needs to be squatting all this and bench pressing all this because
Mhm.
at those early stages, it's better for them to like really spend their time on like controlling their body and doing more of the calisthenics part, like we spoke. Um, Now, let's go to a more professional environment. So let's say, okay, we turn to the 16, 17, 18 years old, and then we'll talk about like college and professional. But how will that look like for a 16, 17, 18-year-old?
Okay, so we're going to safely assume that we're taking that youth athlete who was developing with us at that age and they're now at that age, at 16, 17, 18, in their late teens. It's
Hmm.
the same athlete.
Yeah, let's say that.
Okay, so around that time, we might use a lot of the same. We still got to emphasize what we call movement patterns. We're
Hmm.
not focused necessarily on developing muscles so much as it is we're still developing movement. We're still worried about everybody needs to squat, everybody needs to row, everybody needs to sprint, everybody needs to jump. So those are still the key foundations, but okay, maybe now we can advance it to a more to something maybe a little bit more technical, maybe something a little bit more cognitively demanding. Or if we've been developing them for 4, 5, 6 years, load is a very easy way to progress them.
Hmm.
Load is very, very easy. As long as the movement technique does not break down, as long as the movement technique still looks really good, adding load to that is going to be the biggest thing. But the big thing that we've always been talking about is uh, and I've emphasized this a lot recently, is relative strength. How
Hmm.
much can you do relative to your current body composition or your current anthropomorphic measures? Like how tall are you? What kind of weight class are you in? Are you really strong for that weight class? I talk about weight class, meaning that like, okay, or is there a certain weight range that you're in? Are you moving really heavy weight because you have a lot of mass? Or are you
Yeah.
moving a lot of weight because you developed for a really long time? You have great patterning. You've progressed properly. You've been doing this for years. Those are kind of the key determining factors because I've seen on the opposite end where you move a lot of weight and it doesn't move very well. You're not very relatively strong,
Yeah.
meaning that let's say I have someone who's just throwing out an example, someone who's 200 pounds only benching 185. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's not great relative strength. That's pretty not good. That's not great. As opposed to someone who is, let's say, 160 pounds and they're front squatting in the high 200s. That's great relative strength.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
fantastic. But again, that's going to be a slow burn process.
Yeah.
That's very infrequently going to be something that on your first day you're going to be something that's going to be something you're able to do right away.
Yeah.
So making sure that we progress the load, making sure that we progress the movement pattern to something maybe a little bit more demanding, while still keeping it simple enough to give great effort in it, is still going to be the key foundations, even at that age.
Yeah. And how do you work on that progress? So it's basically okay, one week I'm gonna be lifting 20 pounds and then the next week I'm lifting 25, or how do you normally manage that progress?
So there's different methods for doing that. It really does come down to the person. So I'm a big fan of certain methods that we use that ultimately there's a method we use called APRE, So if we talk with our college athletes right now, some of them are going to recognize it because I've been running it with them, meaning that week to week, the load changes based on what they did last week.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I have somebody this week who did 250 for three on their squat at
Mm-hmm.
250 for three. Next week they're going to have to hit 260 for three. And if they hit 260 for three, then they're going to have to hit 270 for three. So it's just a gradual progression on that.
How much of a limit does that have? Like, for example, I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna be vulnerable here and put myself on it. Like, I feel like I've been bench pressing the same weight the whole time for years already. Like, I improve for sure, but like, I don't feel comfortable continue putting. Well, I also train by myself, so it's kind of hard to have somebody behind. But like,
Mhm.
is there any limit where you're like, okay, you cannot progress anymore? Like, you stuck there, or how does that look like?
Yeah, so we have had that in the past where it does feel like there's stagnation. We have to look at a couple of things. Number one, you may have capped out on that style of on that maybe not style of training, but maybe on that certain programming method. So let's say I have someone who is running APRE, and let's say they're stuck at let's say they're deadlifting 300 for three this week. Well, then they hit 300 for two next week. I'm like, okay, well that's a little concerning.
Yeah.
And then they hit 300 for one the next week. It's like, okay, we need to maybe take a step back because
Mhm.
there might be other factors at play.
Yeah.
We need to look at multiple things. Number one, how long have you been running it? Because if you've been running it for a really, really long time, odds are that you can potentially cap out on it. I'm
Mhm.
not saying it's a bad method, but maybe we need to progress to something different. Maybe you need to step away from that for a little bit and move on to a slightly different method than before. Another thing that we also have to look at, especially with athletes, because I'm just going to be honest, like I'm not an athlete. I'm not like I don't play the sport. A lot of the times we also have to consider systemic fatigue, meaning that, okay, well, they're playing games, they're practicing, they have school, they
Yeah.
have stuff on the outside, they also have the training
Socializing.
they do with me. There's a whole bunch of stuff that eventually accumulates.
Yeah.
And if those things are like, if sprint times are going down, if lift numbers are going down, if jump numbers are going down, if you can just kind of tell that they're fatiguing faster,
Hmm.
you need to have an open and honest conversation with them and ask, hey, like what's been going on? I just want to know.
Yeah.
And if
And
they're like, hey, I've been
when is the cap for that? Like, for example, let's say, okay, today I work out and I did it, whatever, but then tomorrow I didn't work out that well. Like, that doesn't mean that I'm tired, you know what I mean? So when is like the
Mhm.
cap of like, okay, yeah, I probably need to actually step back, you know what I mean?
step back for a second. I think if it's over the case of multiple weeks, I
Yeah.
think if there's a case of okay, well, sometimes you're just gonna have a bad session, but
Yeah.
sometimes that's just gonna happen. I've had that. I've had athletes have it. You've probably had it too,
Oh,
where hey, I've come in one day and I've done really well. I'll come in a couple of days after and I'm just something's just not right.
yeah.
Those sessions, I will say, do happen. If those sessions are continuously happening, if I have maybe four or five bad sessions in a row,
Hmm.
maybe there's a necessity to look at other factors at play.
Yeah. And how can you determine is I'm having a bad session or I'm not really pushing myself? Like, do I need to have a break or I'm just not pushing myself?
Um, that's a great question, honestly. That is
Personally.
a great question. Um, I have seen I have seen true systemic fatigue before.
Mhm.
Where people have just, I know they're trying. And I'll say this, the majority of time when people have bad sessions and they're upset about it, that's how I can tell it's probably a fatigue issue.
Yeah.
Or it's a, hey, I just had a bad session, as opposed to, I just don't believe that this person was trying very hard. Typically, one of the things you're going to look at is just kind of the relative ease with which they're going through the motion. Because I've seen a lot of times where people don't push themselves
Yeah.
and they just like there's not a lot of intent behind it. There's no real sense of urgency about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um,
How can you motivate somebody to do that?
that's another great question. If you could have an answer for that on your end, that'd be fantastic. But I think I think having an open and honest conversation with them, especially in
Yeah,
a
no,
team
and
setting, it's
I do believe
huge.
like in a team setting is way easier because of course you have like people around you pushing you, and whenever you work like guys, if you are never workout or stuff like that, get somebody to work out with you because you guys are gonna be like pushing each other and you keep it
Mhm.
consistent. So I think on the team environment is really well, but like for example, I'm saying on the individual environment, let's say a goalkeeper trains by like he goes to high school and he trains by himself, but he shows up to a weight room and he just go by motions. Like how can he separate that mental barrier? Like, oh, I really want to. It's how bad do you want it? You think so? Or like
Yeah,
in a proper program as well, I believe so, where you're able to track the whole thing.
there's a handful of things that we can do. Number one, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've done it before where I've had to tell people like, hey, people are counting on you. Like people are counting on you to get better. If you do not want to get better at the same rate as everybody else, you might run into problems. If there's not a necessity for you internally to get better, as opposed to everyone else around you who's potentially progressing at a faster rate, number one, you're going to miss out on opportunities. You're just going to miss out on them. And number two, there's also you running the risk of underperforming relative to the people around you.
Yeah,
Because I've seen it where a lot of times the most talented person is maybe not the hardest worker and does not get the same opportunity as someone who we know is going to work extremely hard.
so
And
yeah,
we give those people greater opportunity. I'm going to say this right now. I would much rather take somebody who maybe doesn't move the best, but tries really, really, really hard. And we can work with that. And they're open to feedback. They're willing to progress. They're willing to maybe take a small step back, as opposed to someone who I wouldn't say goes through the motions, but is almost a little bit too prideful to take a step back and to take
yeah, or they're
feedback.
just too comfortable on that. Like, oh, I don't want to push that little extra, you know. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm already doing 20 pounds. That's good. That's enough.
Yeah.
Why you're not doing 25 if you can rightly push? They don't
Yeah,
want
it's like why
to
can't you do
comfortable.
that?
So, yeah, and that's something that I always say like to people as well. Like I mean, and I need to be honest with you. Like sometimes I do need to remind me this to myself as well. Like if I already show up, like if I'm already there, I actually should show up. You know, like I'm already doing the sacrifices coming over here, just like really step on it and show up and do the right things. And like you said, I really like what you mentioned about you're leaving people behind. Yeah, even if it is your family or whatever, or your friend or somebody that look forward to you, just have that in mind. I do believe will help. Okay, so youth, calisthenics, control their body. Now a little bit more professional level, 16, 17. We're putting a little bit more of weight. We're getting them more familiar with the exercise. Of course, now we get into a professional environment. We don't want bodybuilders. We are not putting 4 plates on the squat for an athlete, for a goalkeeper, for a soccer player. So how does the environment in college and professional should look like, in your opinion?
So one of the big things that I think maybe gets lost in the high school level that I emphasize really heavily at the collegiate level and potentially professional level. One of the big things that is going to get you the most bang for your buck, if you've been progressing really, really well from the age of, let's say, 10 to 18, you've set a really good foundation. You should have been sprinting in that time. You should have been sprinting. You should have been doing change of direction. You should have been doing stuff on the field that is going to make you a better athlete outside of the weight room. Yes, the weight room is imperative. It needs to happen. But if you have not been doing true speed work, if you have not been doing that up until this point, you just probably lost out on about half of your athletic development.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy because
I'm being serious that
normally don't think
this
about that. They're like, okay, I just train. Like, why should I be running extra or doing like a sprints? You know, especially goalkeepers sometimes tend to be a little bit lazy about the cardio.
I wouldn't say cardio. Cardio is not the
Well, not
thing
the
we're
cardio,
looking
I mean the
at.
proper terminology, but running. That's probably why they choose cardio.
The sprinting does get lost in the sauce. I won't lie to you.
Yeah. Okay, so there you go. So keep going that part. So college, professional.
I think goalkeepers need to be sprinting.
Yeah.
Even though it's something you're not going to be doing on the field. Let's say you're not going to be running. a 20-yard sprint. Or like if you are, it's extremely rare. Extremely rare. But in terms of a neuromuscular standpoint, meaning that how fast it's going from your nervous system to the muscles,
Yeah.
a force standpoint, as well as an energy production standpoint, sprinting is one of the best things that any person can do, period, point blank. I don't care if you're a Division 3 competitive sewer. I don't care if you're an NAIA bowler. You need to be sprinting. There is nothing that happens in the body as fast, with as much force, or with as much intent as sprinting. And not only are you going to get faster over time if you are sprinting continuously, if you are dosing it correctly, if you are progressing it at a rate that is commensurate to their development, the big thing that is going to happen is that it's going to help your weight room work.
Yeah.
And then your weight room work and your sprint work is only going to help your development on the field because you will be faster on your feet. You will be able to make decisions faster. Your connection between your spinal cord, brain, and muscles will be faster. You will just overall be a more well developed athlete. But if you take sprinting out of the equation, there's only so much we can do.
But what about long running? I know there is this myth that goalkeepers doesn't really, because like you said, oh, we don't run, so we don't really need to run like long distances. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, so that's another great question. That's a discussion I've had with quite a few people.
Mhm.
I don't think I think that being conditioned is a good thing. I think you and I have talked about this in the past. Like, if a goalkeeper wanted to run a 5K, is that something that they should do? I'm like, if they want to, that's
Yeah.
okay. Like, there's no, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing for them to do it. However, what I think you should do is be conditioned well, considering the position you play. So for goalkeepers, more often than not, it's very short bursts of activity. You're not going to be doing a lot of long distance running. Having long distance under your belt is a good thing because we talk about an aerobic base, meaning
Yeah.
that if we can make the base taller and wider, that's actually going to help us build our metaphorical pyramid even taller, as opposed to really, really narrow. In that case, if I'm not well conditioned and if I don't have a good aerobic base, there's only so much I can do here. As opposed to if I have it out here, it's even better. And then if I have it out here, it's even better.
Yeah.
So having that under your belt is a good thing. But having them do long distance running, I would say if that is what they want to do, that is okay. But having them have a good aerobic base for their given energy system, which is uh, short-term energy, is going to be huge. So let's say
Do you
I've
think?
run in the past. Let me say, go ahead. Sorry.
Keep going, keep going.
So in the past, I've worked with the goalkeepers, and what I have them do is what we call a 10 by 10, popularized by Derek Hansen. So what it is it's 70 seconds of continuous work. So let's say it's 10 reps. You get 10 yards to accelerate, 10 yards to decelerate, take 2 to 3 steps over, 10 yards to accelerate back, 10 yards to decelerate. You have 10 reps and you have 75 seconds to do it. And then we give you 2 to 3 minutes of rest. Now, is that long distance running? No. But is that a longer amount of time for conditioning that they'll have to do on the field? Yes, it 100% will be.
Yeah. Do you think the long distance running can affect in a negative way a goalkeeper?
I would say more often than not, no. I would say that if that is something that you are continuously doing, and if you are feeling this potential arbitrary need to have your I don't know 10K time come down, maybe that's not the most beneficial thing we could do, but having a good solid foundation of long distance running, I would say is not going to hurt them.
Yeah, okay, I agree. I agree. And also, like, I see it from the mental aspect as well. I think running is something not everybody really likes, and the way that
Mhm.
you can push yourself and like be with your thoughts while you're running and stuff like that can really help you as well on those
For
aspects.
sure.
And like you said, I think all those little things can add, like the fitter that you are is gonna just make you better at it, like definitely. Okay, so professional level, of course, you have all those testing, and there is a test for goalkeepers. I think I sent it to you. I'm 100% sure that it will be kind of interesting if I bring it up eventually in a different video. But in the professional level, how will that look like? Like, for example, how much weight are you putting on them, or like you just focus more on agility? Agility, I mean like flexibility, like just small things for them to get ready, or you're trying to actually push them to lift heavy or move heavy stuff? What?
So that's an excellent question. At the professional level, we could say that the majority of the time, at that point, we've probably maxed out on our genetic potential.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's probably small areas that we can keep improving, but I would say that at that level, maybe chasing maximal strength is going to have only so much return for us. Obviously, getting stronger is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with getting stronger, but constantly feeling a need to chase those numbers may not always provide us um, with the best long-term result. We
Yeah.
should have been developing that over time already. We should have been doing that from the ages of 10 to however old they are now. We should have been chasing max strength, especially when they were in high school and college.
Yeah.
That really should have been the
Point,
time
man.
to do it.
It's about you winning the games, to be honest. It's not about how much you you can lift and stuff like that. Something to be really mindful about. And I want to come back to that topic, but before we go back to that topic, how and of course, like if you're watching this and you want to know a little bit more, you can just go and check Kyle Instagram because he's posting videos and stuff like that. But I would like you to share like how does one day of training look like? Of course, like you can train the whole week, whatever, but just to give us kind of an overview of like how do you develop your training session or how does that one day will look like. And then if you want to find the other days, just go to their Instagram and check him out.
Okay, this is a perfect question. This is me getting to talk about myself more, so this is a great time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, so typically, the most bang for your buck that I talked about in an earlier segment was sprinting. So obviously, we're going to emphasize that a lot, especially at the collegiate level. Um, so the big thing that we're going to do is, let's say we have squatting that day.
Mhm.
Typically, if we're going to squat that day, the morning of, let's say we have a squat session later that day. At practice that morning, we're probably gonna sprint. We're probably gonna hit a max velocity sprint. We're gonna hit um, a flying 15 yard with a 20-yard drop in, meaning that we're building up for 20 yards. And for those last 15, you're at full speed. You need to be going all out. You need to be moving as fluidly as possible. Um, we're not going to hit a ton of volume on that, but it's going to be enough to provide an adaptation and a stimulus.
Mhm.
After that, what we'll typically do is we'll sprint, and we'll come in. That first block is purely priming. It's going to be, hey, we're going to be jumping. We're probably going to be doing some sort of Olympic variant. We're going to be doing some form of kettlebell swing. We'll be throwing med balls. We'll be jumping over hurdles. Um, we'll be doing stuff for knee health, ankle health, stuff like that. In that first block, getting us ready for our second block of exercises, where the we call that kind of our main hitter block or our money maker block. Typically on a month, let's say we're sprinting that morning, we're probably squatting that day. Okay, well, we're going to squat in that block. We're going to hit another movement, typically a row of some sort, hitting the posterior chain. And then we're going to do some form of core exercise. I believe that core is something that, yes, we're not more so worried about the abs looking good so much as it is we're trying to develop the core of the athlete from more or less like the shoulder all the way down to the feet.
Yeah.
That is really going to be us building them out to absorb contact
So
and make
basically,
sure that if they are making contact on the field, that they're not going to crumple.
yeah, from my understanding, from what you're saying, you're basically during one day, you're kind of like really emphasis on one core exercise that it will be like a squat, but
Yes.
so kind of hitting the other ones a little bit more. That way you're like kind of training your whole body in some sense.
Yeah, we do full body sessions. So a lot of the times in that first block is going to get us ready. mainly for number one, I think doing a lot of power stuff is still good no matter the time of year. But also, we are getting ourselves ready for the main thing of the day in the weight room. Obviously, our biggest moneymaker is going to be sprinting. That's not a question about that. But when we try to get ourselves ready for that day, it's, hey, I'm not going to sprint on a bench press day. I don't really see a necessity for that because it's not really going to help us out in the long run,
Yeah,
as opposed to, hey, our sprinting is going to help our squatting that day. And then our squatting is going to help our sprinting in the long term after the fact.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we're priming ourselves for that. And then obviously we hit other stuff along the way. We still do overhead press. We still do pull-ups. We still do stuff for the groin, stuff for the adductors. We still do stuff for the ankles. So those things are still playing a factor. But the main things that we're going to do are we're going to sprint, we're going to probably squat, we're going to do power movements, and we're going to do some form of groin bulletproofing on our main lower day exercises that we're doing. That's typically going to be on a Monday in the off season.
yeah, 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 cool. And again, if you want to hear or see another examples, I know that you can text Kyle and he will be more than open to kind of walk you through a week of like, okay, what should we train or stuff like that. Of course, with the season, with the team, like things to be considered, when do we practice, when do we travel? So those are things that you will consider as well. On the perfect scenario, Kyle, are you lifting every single day, or how does it look?
See, that's a contentious topic amongst the strength and conditioning world.
Mhm.
So I would say that if you can get well, give me the scenario. Are we lifting? Are we in season? Are we in our off season? Are we in preseason? Where are we at in the year?
We play once a week. Let's say it like that. We play
Okay.
once.
Okay. So if we play once a week, I think two two good sessions, maybe three if you're in an in season, would be good.
Mhm.
I think three um would be like okay, like it's probably good enough.
Yeah.
Two good full body sessions if you're doing it in season is great. If you can get a what we call a micro dose to lift in every day, that would be, if you could do that, that's great. But we also have to consider one thing with that is that can we progress it in a microdose setting? I feel like a lot of the times in a microdose setting, there are times when progression maybe goes out the window and we focus on like, oh, we want them feeling good at all times. Like, nah, sometimes we do need to move the needle a little bit. Sometimes we do need to progress them. Sometimes we do need to challenge them. And that's okay to do that. But challenging them in the right ways, challenging them in the way that is most beneficial for the goals that we're trying to achieve. So if we're in an in season, we don't need to be chasing a ton of fatigue. What we do want to do is be chasing rate of force development, which is how quickly let's say I've been chasing max strength in our off season. Okay, well now let's say I've deadlifted 300 pounds because I have somebody who can do that.
Mhm.
Can I have them deadlift 200 pounds at a ridiculously fast rate, at a ridiculously fast speed? I'm going to get more bang for my buck out of that as opposed to them trying to chase a 305-pound dead.
Yeah.
And then also making sure that we're still hitting the areas necessary um, for injury mitigation or injury reduction. So you don't want to baby them.
You don't
That
want
is the big thing. You don't want to baby your athletes in season because as soon as you start taking progression and load away from them and you start making it too easy, that's when our level of adaptation starts going down and we run a risk of injury that is greater than it was before.
Mhm. Well, interesting. Good to know. Um, Now because you mentioned something about like, oh, this is a great question for the Strength Conditioning Association. Now we go to a goalkeeping community award. So let's talk about first of all about footwork. I know a lot of people talk about footwork of like, for example, okay, how does the footwork for a perfect goalkeeper practice should look like? If it is through cones or it is about them doing different movements, like for example, the sprinting, just changing of direction really quick, or just having cones and then let them go through the cones, like coordination style stuff? How do
Mhm.
you think is the proper way a goalkeeper can develop proper coordination and proper like footwork?
That's a great question. A lot of that is going to be dependent on number one, your style of training that you do, what you have found to be the best results as a goalkeeper coach. Um, I think a lot of the times the the best way is the way that works. If you have been developing a system as a coach that has been producing results, I would say do your best to try and stick with that. But for a strength and conditioning coach, the big things that we're going to focus on is, especially in an early off season, because we just did this, we focus on two things: posture and positioning. We focus on, okay, we know like what these things are. How proficient are we with them? If
Mhm.
we're not proficient with them, then we might just be wasting time by doing it and might not be getting the most adaptation out of it. So what I like to do, especially in an early off season, is emphasize good positioning. Um, so I've had a lot of time to develop a program for a lot of like good change of direction work.
Mhm.
So within the first 2 to 3 weeks, it's going to be okay. You're going to start to feel the positions that you want yourself to be in when you're doing stuff on the field or on the pitch. So let's say I'm doing a change of direction drill. If I blow them through it without truly introducing them to how to run it efficiently, then I might just be wasting time. I might just be having them, get extra steps in. It's not going to be the most beneficial thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to, hey, let's slow it down a little bit first. Okay, we're going to run 5 yards. Then I need you to stick and lean. I need you to feel how much pressure you're putting on the inside leg because I'm telling you right now, you're going to find yourself like that in a game and you're going to need to do something with that. If I can't get you to do that efficiently and feel how to get out of that position properly,
Yeah.
the amount of work I'm doing with you is not going to be put to good use. As opposed to, let me slow it down, let me have you feel what those positions are supposed to look like, and then get really good at them, and then progress further along to where those positions now start coming naturally to you. You know what it's supposed to feel like. You know what it feels like. Okay, well then do something with it.
So from you, like you said, from the strength and point conditioning, it's more of like getting rid of those cons and trying to put more of those scenarios that you face on the game.
Yes, we put a lot of constraints in at the beginning just to get them comfortable with those positions and with that patterning. And then we start taking some of those constraints away
How
and get them
efficient,
in more game, maybe not game like scenarios, but more scenarios that are going to be akin to something they might see on the pitch.
from the strength and conditioning point, how efficient you think is doing those patterns of like cones and like footwork of like, oh, going through it, skipping, slalom around them?
Um, I think it really depends. So I'm not a big person for we do cone drills, but I don't have them necessarily go through cones. But I think using cones is going to be a very, very effective thing because it gives them a frame of reference to work with. It
Yeah,
gives them something to
going
kind
through
of
cones,
feel around with.
yeah.
So one of the things that I like to do, especially in that early off season, is use those cone drills to give them frames of reference and provide constraints. And then at some point we take them away. So then you don't have to worry about those constraints and you can just go about it naturally. When it comes to your actual training on the field, I believe that personally, having those constraints at the beginning is totally fine. You need to get them accustomed to the movement. Okay, well, you got used to the movement. Well, now can you put some of those movements together? Can you start making it work for the goal we're trying to
But that's
accomplish
like
overall?
the big debate on goalkeeping. Like for example, you never see a goalkeeper like we're speaking going through the cones, like doing that movement of like high knees. You will never see a goalkeeper doing that.
Yeah, we don't do that either.
So that's what I said, like how efficient are those kind of exercises?
I'll say this. I think it's,
Like you see in the NFL how they go like some combines or some movements, like you see in Instagram, like how quick they can move their feet of going through the ladders and
mhm.
all that. But like truly from a strength and conditioning point, like how good are those exercises? Like, do they actually help you to develop coordination? They actually help you to just get better on this big picture, or that?
Um, that okay. Now that's a good. I love that. That's a hot topic that I've truly gotten on the been on the wrong side of at one point. But I will say this now. I think it's okay for early development, just to kind of get a general coordination. Like, hey, like you need to just learn how to like kind of do some stuff like properly. I
Yeah,
think that a lot of it I use for, we call it prep or priming. We don't necessarily hang our hat on it, but it's not necessarily a bad thing to do as like part of your warm up. But if we're like, oh, okay, we're going to do ladder drills for 10 minutes, like, no, you're not going to find that on my program. I will say the majority of good strength and conditioning coaches, you're probably not going to find that.
yeah.
They might do it as a good general warm up.
I
They
agree.
might do it for ankle prep, good movement prep, just kind of get the blood flow going, just kind of get the body moving. That's great. But
Yeah,
you're never going to find in a truly great strength and conditioning program, I would find it very rare to find them doing ladder drills and cone drills like that very consistently, as opposed to just doing it for a warm up and to kind of get the body ready.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point to reference because again, it goes down, for example, to a part of running. Like it will add you, it will help you, it will improve you. And I think, for example, me as a goalkeeper, the older I got, the more that control of my body that I get, the best I was as a goalkeeper because I had that coordination on myself. So I
For
think
sure.
little things of ladders, there is still room for it. I like
Oh,
you.
for sure.
I will never run a whole session about that, but I do believe like okay, just to get us warm, get us ready, get us mentally, get us prepared.
Mhm.
Let's we can start with those things. So I think
For
there's
sure.
and with that being said, I know there's a lot of goalkeeper coaches as well that they like to implement like a strength and conditioning moments on the practices. So, for example, they bring the weights and then they're working with the medicine ball, doing like 15 squats, and then they go and make a save, or they bring a barbell, yeah, barbell, and then they do how do you call these ones? Bulgarian splits, and then they go and do plyometrics, and then they jump to a goal and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on these scenarios?
Keep the weight room in the weight room and keep the field on the field.
Yeah,
Keep the weight room in the weight room and keep the field on the field. I think that there's room to use like medicine balls and like bands and like kettlebells and stuff. Like I've used it on the field as a primer to get the body ready. I'm not trying to mimic what I'm doing in the sport as opposed to, hey, let's take 15 minutes. 5 minutes will be a general warm up. 10 minutes will be, hey, we'll hit a couple rounds of kettlebell swings. We'll hit some really heavy, like medicine ball throws up in the air. We'll hit some jumps, and then we're going to go into our practice. Those two things can be separate and together, like at kind of at the same time, but like you can't mix the two for one another.
yeah,
The sport is the sport, and the weight room is the weight room.
100%. No,
You can use the weight room to help your field work, and the field work, if you get better at that, is probably going to help in some way your work in the weight room. But mixing the two together, I personally don't believe is the most efficient use of time. Again, you can use bits and pieces. You can use the idea of, hey, if I throw a medicine ball really, really hard into the air as forcefully as I can, that's probably going to get my nervous system kind of firing off. If I jump, if I do like a double broad jump, that's probably going to get my nervous system going. If I do some kettlebell swings, that's going to get my hamstrings ready, my glutes ready, my hip extension ready. Those are all great things. If I see a barbell on the field at practice this year, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I'm going to lose it.
that's hilarious. I'm
Like
just,
if I see you putting out a squat stand out there so they can do Bulgarian split squats, I'm going to lose my mind.
I'm just
But
gonna
if you
think,
told me, but if you told me, hey, before a game, we kind of want to get some nervous system stuff going, I'm like, okay, I can maybe bring out a couple kettlebells, maybe bring out a couple medicine balls. We can like hit a few swings, hit a few throws, hit a few jumps, and then hey, roll right into your skill development and let's go.
yeah. And you just remind me about something that I know we had this conversation about like reflexes and stuff like that. And like, okay, how can I help the goalkeepers to be faster moving this? Or and you were like, have you considered like warming up those kind of like the cognitive aspect as well? And that's something
Yeah,
I'm very mindful nowadays as well of like, okay, we actually need to, like you said, like, ah, what is the word I use? fire up those whatever is
Uh,
going on.
prime the nervous system.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's important, really, really important for goalkeeper coaches to be mindful as well. Like
Yeah.
a game or stuff like that, create that quick switch of like, okay, I need to react, I need to do something like that.
Yeah, I think that there is room for cognitive drills. I will say this, as a strength and conditioning coach, I have certain cognitive things that I would like to do, but I can I can say that more often than not, the sport coach is going to be more in tune with how they want to do that. I can provide some ideas. I can provide maybe some stuff that I would want to do to kind of get the nervous system going, to get the cognitive system firing. Um, a lot of that is also going to be due to um, we talked about it earlier, constraints. Is maybe putting constraints on a certain drill, maybe putting certain constraints on a certain activity that we're doing. That forces the person who's participating in it to think a little bit more critically, to maybe react to something, to maybe do this, that, the other in response to something that you're doing as the coach.
Mm.
I think that is going to play a key factor, but again, you don't want to overwhelm them. You want to give them a simple task with maybe one or two constraints that'll force good, fast decision making while still giving good physical output.
Yeah, and also you want them because it happens a lot. Like, and I lately have been preaching a lot about this. Like, we give so much constraints that we're just creating robots in some sense. Like, oh, goalkeeper, you need to come over here and then make this shot and then go this side and then make this shot and then this. And in reality, like the game is not like a game is like so.
No,
So, like you said, put one constraint of like, hey, if this happens, but you need to figure out the rest of the scenarios.
for sure, for sure. I think a lot of times we have put so many constraints on what we can or cannot do in certain things that we lose the true key of the game, which is it's really unpredictable.
It
The
is.
game is not predictable at all.
Not at all. And then, well, what you mentioned, I think is also crucial to just emphasize on like, let's keep the weight room in the weight room and let's keep the actual soccer practice. Because especially as goalkeepers, we really don't have that much of a time to come out there and then just do 50 squats whenever they can go back to their houses and do those 50 squats. And
Yeah.
in reality, they're gonna get better on those 15 squats whenever they do it back home, not when they're doing it over here. And you want to emphasize that time of getting better in the field as a goalkeeper. I think that's really crucial to be really mindful about as well.
No, I would be in full agreement with that. Again, it's the two can help each other, but if they're getting in the way of one another, that's when we start to potentially see fewer results.
Yeah. I think we have been going like for an hour and something. There is so many topics that we can add and talk, like for example, nutrition, the statistics, uh, rehab, how do you prepare, and all those things. But of course, I want to be mindful about your time. Um, So I will just do like a couple more questions, and the first one will be, what will be your best five advices for any athlete regarding, okay, I want to start, or I'm already doing a strength and conditioning, but you believe they need to be really mindful about this stuff.
Oh, top three right here at the top of the pyramid. Eat, sleep, hydrate. These are three things that we get lost in.
Mhm.
If you are not putting good food into your body in the right quantities at the right times, your body will tell you that you are not doing that. If you are not sleeping 8 or 7 to 9 hours a night, your body's going to tell you. If you are not hydrating correctly with good electrolytes, enough water in your system, making sure that it's properly balanced, your body is going to tell you. Your body's going to tell you that those things are going to like if one of those three things is off, I'm telling you right now, your body's going to be screaming at you that something is wrong. And you're probably going to figure it out right away that something is wrong. And you'll be able to trace it back to one of those things. Those three things are going to be the three things at the top of that.
Mhm.
Um, another thing that is going to be huge is is just staying consistent. Is just staying consistent in whatever it is that you're doing. I think a lot of times we chase, again, we've talked about it before, we chase novelty. We chase stuff that looks good, as opposed to, hey, what I've been doing is working. Why would I try and run from what has been working? and embrace the consistency, embrace being boring, embrace the idea that what we've been doing up until this point has produced great results for me, and has at some point probably produced great results for my team as well.
Yeah.
At some point, that's got to matter a little bit. So trying to chase novelty for the sake of, I don't know, mental stimulation might not produce the best results long term. Stay consistent, stay boring, keep putting your head down and keep hammering with those things that you've been doing already. And then obviously, one of the big things you can do is really, really emphasize great effort on everything.
Mhm.
Everything. I don't care if it's in the weight room, I don't care if it's in stuff on the outside, or if it's especially stuff on the field. The big thing that we need to emphasize, like, yes, the strength and conditioning program is extremely important. It is going to help us a ton on the field. The biggest reason that you are a goalkeeper is not to lift weights and
Mhm.
not to sprint. The biggest reason you are a goalkeeper is to play goalkeeper and to win games. If that is not at the top of your list, I have some questions.
Yeah, you need to consider
I
something.
want to work with people where their biggest goal is to win.
Yeah. And I think, like that's amazing. I really enjoy it. That last one especially. I know that's gonna be like the real one of the highlights.
Oh, yeah,
You're a goalkeeper. You're
you
not
better
here
put a
to
caption on that and everything. I
do.
need you to tag me and, like, I don't know, put me on Twitter.
I will. I don't have to, but I will. Uh, I will add another one or there for whoever is listening is I believe mentoring is crucial. So definitely like having a plan, having somebody that can guide you through it. Like even myself that I have been working out for a while, I do believe like for example when I prepare for the Ironman, I had all my list and I knew exactly what I was gonna do the day that I was gonna do. And even though there were days that I really didn't want it to run or stuff like that, I knew
Mhm,
that piece of paper told me you need to do it and you must do it. And that aftermath of like I just accomplished something that I really didn't want to do, and I just run for 2 hours fighting the whole time about it, just
mhm.
gave me a boost of energy and everything in general. So I do believe having a plan is gonna be really crucial. And I know people are gonna say like, oh, it's so expensive to pay for this, but mate, in reality, you're investing in yourself, and I think you never
Exactly.
like actually investing in yourself. You're learning, and then you have somebody that is coachable. I mean, it's coaching you, it's taking you accountable, and I think that's really crucial. I cannot with people that say like, "Oh, you pay $30 for the gym," or stuff like that. It's like, man,
Like,
$30 a month
it's
on
not that bad. That's
yeah,
not bad.
you go out there and then you what get some drinks and you spend like $70, and you invite a friend or a date or whatever, and then you like
Mhm.
way more money than that. So, what like $30 is expensive? That's crazy. If you
Yeah,
have
it's true
everything,
investment in yourself. It's true, but also, like, if you're a goalkeeper, if you're just like an athlete in general, it's not just investment in yourself. If you're a team athlete, that's you putting time into yourself, which is only going to help the other people on that same team. You're only benefiting everybody. You are benefiting every single person you are working with. You are benefiting you. You are benefiting your teammates. You are benefiting your coaches. You are benefiting your the support staff you're going to be, working with. It's not just like, oh, okay, I'm just investing in myself. Like, yes, you are doing that. But think about also the bigger picture. You can't just play goalkeeper by yourself 1 on 11. That's not possible. You
yeah,
need to also play with the other 10 people. If you get better as a goalkeeper and better as an athlete, you are helping the other people that are also on the pitch with you.
to get better. Yeah, 100%. Again, being mindful about the time. So I think this might be a last question for somebody that is trying to learn more about this topic or want to improve their game. Like, what would you recommend them regarding resources? How can they learn more? Of course, follow Kyle. That's important. I will leave the Instagram, whatever, in all the information. But what else will you recommend them? What tips will you give them, and in general?
Um, I would. It also depends on the level of people that we're talking about. So I would say at the high school level, I would ask people in college what they've been doing. Because I will say that there is a very, very good likelihood that those people in college got to that spot for a particular reason, especially at the D3, D2, NAIA D1 level. ask those people what they did.
Mhm.
Because I'm telling you, especially in college, not just about how they got there, but also what they're doing at that level. Because I'm telling you right now, more often than not, they have a good practice structure, they have a good strength and conditioning program, they have all this, that, and the other. At some point, especially for the strength and conditioning aspect, that may not be super emphasized at the high school level. I'm telling you right now, it's imperative at the collegiate level, and it's going to be imperative at the professional level. But I would tell you right now, for people who are closer to your age, if you know somebody who's playing at the collegiate level, I would talk to them. I would 100% talk to those people. But also, again, there's quite a few people you can look at. Number one, myself. Number that's just a great shout out. I know it's a great self endorsement. But having worked with soccer for a year, you recognize like what they need overall.
Yeah.
What they need overall as an athlete, not just with the field players, but goalkeepers especially. Like they have certain needs that maybe aren't the same as everybody else. Um, Also, other resources to look at. Um, I would look at personally, I would see if there's like podcasts that you could listen to. There's a couple of podcasts that I've listened to where you have the strength and conditioning coach for Chelsea. They talk about the youth development program that they have, and that they are actually looking at like taking on athletes for years and years until they reach that professional level, and then once they get there, they're ready to go. So that's another good thing. Reading articles from those strength and conditioning coaches, listening to podcasts, listening to interviews, listening to some of those athletes talk about it, as well as some of those coaches, and see, okay, well, what did they do to develop it? How did they get the most out of their athletes in that time? Is only going to tell you, okay, am I on the right track, or do I have certain areas where I might need to fill in some gaps?
Yeah. Yeah. So three, just to conclude, okay, three main takeaways that we can get from here. Basically, one, and the first one will be like, of course, if one of the most important things that you need to do is be able to control your body, understand your body, like be real coordinative. If you can start this from young ages, it's gonna be crucial. But give the players time to actually progress and overload later in their careers and not trying to be like, oh, we're gonna squat so much being 10, 12 years old. I think that's one of the main takeaways. Second takeaway, of course, like we said, the cliche things are cliche, they are boring, but it is what it is. They will take you to excellence. And that's why all these years has been about like the same exercise in some sense, right? And then another takeaway, work out as an athlete, sprint, move things, just move around, don't
Mhm.
stick in specific movements, I guess. Nutrition, hydration, and recovery is crucial. Any other takeaway that I'm missing out?
Um, just keep training hard. Like, like I said at the beginning, simple stuff done with high effort produces the best results.
Yeah.
That's the big takeaway. Don't overcomplicate it. Do the simple stuff right, and you'll be okay.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Kyle, I want to acknowledge you for taking time of this, doing this, and like I tell everybody, and I'm also saying over here, like you're really passionate about what you do, and I'm really grateful that you're part of Southern Miss of the team that you have been working with us for a while. So that's exciting because you really take prideness on what you do, and sometimes it's really hard to find people that do that. So thank you very much for that. If people want to know more about you, where can they find you? What should they do?
You can find me on Instagram at degutis_strength. If you want to see just kind of how we go about our training as athletes, what we test for, what things we kind of look at, go ahead and look at that. That's really the only spot you can find me. TikTok never got off the ground. Don't look at me anywhere else. That's pretty much the only spot you're going to find me. That's pretty much where most of my posting is going to go.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Uh, I'm
That's
gonna
the only spot you could find me.
I'm gonna leave also the Instagram, I mean, in the description, whatever, and then of course in the Instagram I will tag you and all of that. But yeah, thank you, Kyle, for doing this.
I will say I'm appreciative of you having me on. I really do appreciate it. You got to listen to me yap for over an hour. This is awesome. I'm in my zone. I'm in my prime.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I need one of those shirts, so
Hey, I got you. I got you. I got a couple more.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.